Hey leaders, thanks so much for watching again. I hope you've had a great Thanksgiving week. And if you're watching this after Thanksgiving, I hope you had a great time with family and friends as we remember to be thankful because we have a lot to be thankful for, especially if we call ourselves Christians and people that follow God, because God has blessed us in so many ways. So I hope you've had a great week with your families and friends celebrating that fact alone. Now this week, we're kicking into a new series called Unexpected. And this is our Christmas series. Since we're off for the weeks right around Christmas, wanted to make sure that we got some of the Christmas stuff in before we took our break at the end of the year. So we'll dive into that in just a moment. But this week, for your leader, your small group leader tip and trick of the week, I just want to talk a little bit about encouraging passion with your students and the things that they love and the things that they are so excited about that we as adults get to come alongside our teenagers and our students and encourage them in the things that they're excited about and encourage them in the things that they feel like God is calling them to. So a few ways that we can do that, and check out the link that's in the email because there's a whole page and a whole blog on this topic, but these are just some of the bullet points from that. I do encourage you to read it though. It's some really good stuff on how we as adults can encourage our students to the next thing with their story. But some of the bullet points are always encourage your students when they find something that they love. Encourage them even when the thing that they love changes. Now make a safe environment for them to test different things as well. You want to create a safe place for them to see and for them to test out what they love and not be condemned or judged when something might not work out that they thought they were passionate about. The next thing is you can always just be there. Just be present in a student's life because just being there shows them that you care enough about what they care about. And then the last thing is that you show them your passions as well. Show them the things with your actions and the things that you dedicate your time to that you care about. And share with them your story of a time when your passions and your things that you love played out because of what God does in your life. The more that we can share our stories, the more real our passions and our callings from God become for our students. And that's what we're called to do as adults that work with teenagers. So try that out this week. Check out that blog post. There's some really good ideas in that. And let me know what you think. I'd love to hear some feedback and some ways where you think that works or that doesn't work, or some of your own ideas about how we can come alongside our students with the things that they feel called to and the things that they love doing and better support them. So we do a great job of that already, but these are just some tips as we continue to be better leaders ourselves. So I hope that helps. Now, like I said, this week we're starting a brand new series called Unexpected. And unexpected is the way that we talk about Christmas sometimes, that the story of Christmas is pretty ordinary. We've heard it every year, but sometimes there's elements of that are unexpected. And the Christmas story has a lot of things that are unexpected. So this week we're starting into that series. It's a 3-week series that we get to talk about the Christmas story and New Year's and looking at how God shows up in the middle of that for us. So this week we're talking about a little bit about the silent treatment. And it's not very fun to get the silent treatment, is it? It's confusing. It's annoying. It can be really hurtful. Now, why is that? For one thing, when someone's not willing to speak to you, how can you possibly fix what's going wrong? What if you're not even sure what you did wrong? I don't know about you, but when someone's mad or upset with me, I would much rather them get in my face and scream at me than give me the silent treatment. Because when I'm given the silent treatment, it makes me question whether that person really cares at all. Now, let me ask you another question. Have you ever felt like you were getting the silent treatment from God? Maybe you prayed for something and it never happened, so you felt like God ignored you. Maybe you found yourself in a difficult situation at home for a long period of time and it felt like God was a million miles away. Maybe your loved one or someone you loved was hurt or sick and you would love to know why God allowed it to happen. But all you seem to get back is silence from him. Now, whether we realize it or not, we all believe that when we talk to God about a problem, a doubt, or a fear, that God should respond to us almost immediately. If God is real and if God cares, then God should always come through for us, right? If we are in trouble or if someone around us is in trouble, then God should swoop in, save us, and rescue the day. God should heal whoever's sick. God should help us make the team. God should repair our parents' marriages. But instead, it feels like all we get is the silent treatment. But when you feel like you're getting silence from God, it can make you question if God really cares for you at all. If you've ever felt that way, I've got some good news for us, that you're not alone. In fact, lots of people have felt that way. Many of them are in the Bible. Many of them actually show up at the very first Christmas story. For most of us, the Christmas season brings happy things to mind, like presents, vacation from school, hot chocolate, twinkling lights, and shopping, but the first Christmas was nothing like that. There was no anticipation of hope or happiness or presence like we have today. Actually, at this time, a couple thousand years ago, a lot of people felt like God had let them down and left them alone. How do we know this? Well, the Bible's split into two parts, the Old Testament and the New Testament. But at the first Christmas, only the Old Testament had been written. The Old Testament tells us the story of how God spoke to the world through Jewish people long ago or before Christianity was even a thing. But if you look at the Old Testament, you'll see that the Jewish people were used to hearing from God. He spoke to them often through prophets and miracles and sometimes even a voice that they could hear. But here's the thing. After Malachi was finished, the last book of the Old Testament, God went silent. And today, all we have to do is flip a page from Old Testament to New Testament. You can start reading the next part of the story. We rarely think about how from the last word in Malachi to the first word in Matthew, there's a gap of several hundred years, but that's the reality. There were no more prophets, no more miracles, no more messages from God for 400 years. That's a long time. These years are known as the 400 years of silence. It's a fitting name because God was, it seemed, giving the whole world the silent treatment. Now imagine what life must have been for the Jewish people at that time. Imagine what they were thinking. Where's God? Why has he stopped talking to us? Is he mad? Has he left us? Was he even real to begin with? Have you ever had thoughts like that? Now, after the 400 years of silence, the New Testament tells us what happened. In Matthew, the very first book of the New Testament begins with a long list of names. And we could read through it all. You could read through it with your small groups. But at the end of that list, you go, okay, what is this list of weird names? Why is that a part of the beginning part of the New Testament? But if you imagine you're Jewish, reading this for the first time, this list of names, they knew very well because they're names they all grew up with hearing in the Old Testament. Jewish people would have read this list and recognized each and every one of those names. That is, right up until the end. Because suddenly some new names start appearing. And it says, and Jacob, the father of Joseph, the husband of Mary, and Mary was the mother of Jesus, who is called the Messiah. And that's Matthew chapter 1, verse 16. In other words, to the Jewish people, the message would have been very clear. You thought the story was over, but it's not. You thought God was done talking, but God's still speaking. This time through Jesus, the Messiah. He's here to save the whole world. Suddenly, this boring list of names becomes a whole lot more. It contains big news, big unexpected news. All those years when God was silent, he was crafting the family tree of Jesus. God may have been silent, but God wasn't absent. He was working the whole time preparing the way for Jesus. See, even when it seemed like God was silent for 400 years, he was working. Even when it seemed like God was absent, he was there. Even when God was silent, he was up to something. Years after Jesus' birth, the Apostle Paul picked up on the very same theme when he wrote to the early church. And it says in Galatians, he says, but when the set time had fully come, God sent his son. Did you catch what Paul said? But when the time had fully come, he hadn't forgotten about his people. He was just waiting for the time. The time he had decided would be the perfect time. God's silence didn't equal his absence. In fact, it's quite the opposite. What if you decided to believe that God is with you and that he hasn't forgotten about you, even in the midst of difficult circumstances? What if you believed that even when God is silent, he's up to something to benefit you? Oftentimes, we look back at the situations from our life and we see that God was working, but sometimes we miss it in the moment. It just wasn't how we expected God to be working. What if you started to open your eyes to the unexpected ways that God is working around you? Maybe it's in your family. Maybe it's at school. Maybe God isn't going to change your D in biology to an A, but God is teaching you how to ask for help, to get more committed to studying. That's an unexpected way of working, but you can still see God working. Maybe it's with your friends. Maybe you don't have the interest or the instant best friend you wanted, but God is working because you're stretching yourself and stepping out to meeting new people. It's unexpected, but it's evidence of God's working in our friendships. Not getting what we want doesn't mean God is absent or that he doesn't care. It means God is up to something. And if we can't see it now, chances are we'll be able to see it when we look back. It may not be what we anticipated, but God is always working in unexpected ways. Now, as we head out this Sunday, this is what I want you to remember about the Christmas story, because it's what the Christmas story is all about. It's about God unexpectedly sending his son into the world after so many years of silence when people thought God had forgotten about him. Christmas is about God declaring once and for all that he is with you, that he is paying attention, that he's never ignoring you. Even when God is silent, he's up to something. Because that's what Christmas is all about. The unexpected news that God is with you, always. So leaders, we'll see you at 4:45 this Sunday night here on the Onona campus as we share some wins. So come with some really great stories. I've seen some phenomenal posts on Facebook so far this week of our small groups getting together during Thanksgiving break and doing things. So bring those stories. Bring the times that you have a conversation with students. I would love to hear the way that things are going well, because I know it's happening. And also we'll share time with prayer requests together. So we'll see you at 4:45 here on the Onona campus. If you're out at 360, we'll see you out there in the morning as well to share some wins and pray together before we start youth group out there. So have a great week, guys. Happy Thanksgiving. We'll see you Sunday. Bye.